Hi, my name is Amanda and I blog at The Life and Times of Julian and Amanda. I'm doing this podcast for the first time today as part of Yarn Along, an online linky party where bloggers come together to talk about what they're knitting and reading. I wanted to thank Kate, also known as Wilfulmina, who blogs at Blue Stocking, for the inspiration for this because she started doing a podcast for her knitting and reading a couple of weeks ago and I've really enjoyed it. I think it's so wonderful what Kate's doing because it makes me feel like I'm sitting in her living room visiting with her. And I think you can tell so much about a person by what they knit and what they read, because neither one of those things are done thoughtlessly. And it's just been really neat to do Yarn Along for the last couple of years and get to know some really great gals. So first things first, I want to do some housekeeping things. For starters, I know that the microphone on this camera isn't excellent. We bought the camera for birding and it takes amazing pictures of birds. It doesn't have a hookup for an external microphone, so we're just going to have to do the best that we can with what we've got. Second, I do not sit around my house looking like this. I just happened to luck out. I was going to do this video today and then I got a phone call from the salon and said, "Oh, you've got a haircut scheduled. Just wanted to remind you." And so that turns out wonderfully that I get to put my face on the internet with salon hair and you don't have to look at my bed head. So lastly, I just wanted to say I've already done this video 3 times. The first time was 33 minutes. The second time was 20 minutes, but you couldn't see anything I was showing you. And so hopefully third time is a charm. But I'm going to keep looking down at my notes right here and my clock to try to keep me on course. I'm gonna try to stick to a 4-point outline for these podcasts. So I want to do what's on the needles, what's in the queue, busting my stash, and then talk about my books. First things first, what's on the needles. I have this great project. It's the PurlSoho Bandana Cowl. I cast on the first 3 times unsuccessfully because I always use the long tail method, and regardless of all of my calculations, an inch and a half per stitch and so on, I couldn't get enough to cast on my 89 stitches. The fourth time I cast on, I used the cable cast on, and I thought, "Whoa, why didn't I do this before?" Then I got to this point in it right here and realized that I'd cast on 84 stitches instead of 89 stitches. Frogged it back. This whole time it's doubly frustrating because my very precious to me cousin sent me this yarn for my birthday, so I wanted to do something special and luxurious with it because it is beautiful. It is Classic Elite Yarns. I can't find my little paper for it. It's Classic Elite Yarns. One of the colorways, the natural alpaca colorway, is called Chateau and the dyed is called Chalet. I might have that backwards, but basically it's a natural colorway or a dyed colorway. This is chestnut, this is denim. And they only have they only have 98 yards per skein. So I am mixing up my colors here because the project calls for 100 to 130 yards of yarn. So I was trucking right along, got there, pulled it back, got my 89 stitches on, then came to this part right here where I'm changing color, but it's not written into the pattern to change color. And so I came halfway around the round and started my short rows. Picking up on this side, I was picking up already knit blue and it was working beautifully. Picking up on this side, I was picking up brown. And I hadn't thought about that until a couple rows in. Kept telling myself, this is not going to bother you. It's beautiful. It's lovely. It's so not going to bother you. You're fine. You're fine. You're fine. And I was not fine. I kept thinking, I'm thinking about it this much. I'm not fine. So I ripped it back to the brown, knit a whole round in the blue, and then short rows from there. Then the other day I was having an absolutely terrible day. I stepped on a nail. I washed my husband's wallet. I threw a glass of grape juice across my carpet. And so I thought, I'll just pick up some knitting. And I messed it up. I don't know exactly what I did, but I came together. It was something when you come together to connect the round after the short rows and go from there. So I frogged it back. When I frogged it back, I took my needles out, and so it was stretchy enough to get it over my head. Tried it on, and the cable cast on is not tight enough. I mean, it's not stretchy enough. But as Karen from Pumpkin Sunrise once told me in all of her infinite knitting wisdom, don't sweat it until you've blocked it. So we're not going to worry about that until I've blocked it. We'll see how that goes. And then if I need to take it out from the cast on edge and rework something, I can rework that then. So my problem after I frogged it back and it looked like everything was right, I realized that my working yarn was now on my purl side where I was supposed to rejoin my rounds and continue knitting in the round. I think now that I've walked away from that and have come back to it 2 days later, if you can see there, I think a stitch got dropped right here, and that is what's causing my problem. And if I just pick up that stitch, I'll have the right number of stitches to do one more wrap, one more short row, even though it's not technically a short row at this point because it's the whole circumference of the work. I do one more short row, pick up those wraps, and then my working yarn will be on the correct side to continue knitting in the round. So I hope I'm not going to have any more problems out of this guy. He's beautiful and I love him, and he's so soft. So he's the only thing that's on the knitting needles at the moment. But starting tomorrow, I will cast on a new project. This guy is my zip mitt, which I've blogged about before. I'm teaching my first knitting class, which is insane because I am not an intrepid knitter. I have only been knitting for a couple of years, and I am a negligent knitter most times. But I have found that the more I do it, the better I am, and so on. Isn't that the case with everything? But anyhow, long story short, I made these zip mitts, and they are a perfect project for learning double point needles. So the gal who runs my local quilt shop, which is actually also my local yarn shop, and from whom I bought this wonderful hand-dyed Virginia grown and milled wool, wanted me to come teach an intro to double point needles class. That is tomorrow. I will cast these on, and I'm excited about that. What I'm struggling with is, you can see here that I've started a woolly tattoo, and it didn't go well. I blogged about that a couple of weeks ago as well. It didn't go well, and I am frustrated with it. The woolly tattoo is something that Tiff from Dottie Angel started. She blogged at Dottie Angel, but she is kind of taking a hiatus from the blog because she has her hands in a lot of different pie. But she's still very active, moderately active on Instagram. You can see her woolly tattoos on there. At first I thought, well, it's embroidery on a glove. How hard can it be? And that is not the situation. So I started it, and in addition to the fact that you have a very heavily textured working surface, you also have to embroider something that's in a tube. So that has been a challenge for me, and a little bit frustrating because I see her beautiful woolly tattoos on hats and mittens and everything, and I want to know how she does it. So she teaches a class. She does not have that class online yet. I have let her know that I want that class online. She said she's got something in the works and will keep us posted. In the meantime, I follow her on Instagram. Also, Tracy, who participates in Yarn Along and blogs at Clover, did a beautiful woolly tattoo on a pair of mittens a couple weeks ago, and I think that was on her Instagram. I don't think it was on her blog. Maybe it was on her blog and I didn't see it. But either way, look her up, and that's a great example. I know that she had some frustration when she tried it, but obviously she's done something right because it's beautiful. So those will be on the needle tomorrow. And really, wouldn't a lovely woolly tattoo go right there? A yellow flower. I love it. Okay, in the queue, I've got this yarn. In the queue and stash busting kind of go hand in hand. I've got this yarn. It's hard to see the color of because it's very delicate. It is Mirasol Hap'i yarn. It's in apricot. I got 2 balls of it in a swap that I did with some bloggy friends through Sweet Potato Claire. Amanda in North Carolina blogs at Sweet Potato Claire, and she does lovely swaps. I only have 260 yards of it. I love it, but I have some hang-ups with it because, one, it's apricot, which says to me, oh, pastel baby. 2, it is bulky. And bulky and baby don't mix, and I don't have a baby. So I have problems with the fact that it's pastel, that it's bulky, and the fact that it's cotton. Because in my experience, cotton knits just don't hold their shape like I would like for them to. And it's not really warm enough to work it up into a hat or a cowl that I would consider would be a good bulky garment to keep me warm. I think that this problem, it has been solved by my queue, which has a pattern for the mama vertebrae. If you're not familiar with it, it's just basically a cardigan, but it goes mainly down your back. It doesn't come in the front and go over. So it's very drapey, flowy, and I think it would be very forgiving with a cotton yarn. The problem there is that I only have 260 yards of it. So my other local yarn shop, which is Yarn Barn, the Kirtland Yarn Barn, yarnbarn.com, stocks an amazing amount of discontinued yarn. She has 20 balls of it, even though it's been discontinued for years. I'm pretty sure it's been discontinued for years, at least this colorway has. 20 balls in my colorway. So I'm going to try to get myself over there and buy enough to do the mama vertebrae, even though I haven't bought the pattern yet or calculated the math to try to get that sorted out. So that's both in the queue and stash busting. Oh, another thing in the queue, really quickly. I'm trying to keep my Christmas knitting commitments down because it puts a lot of pressure on me in the holidays that I don't need. But my brother-in-law wants a hat. It's called a Jane hat. It's from a TV show that I've never heard of. It's yellow on the top, orange in the middle, and has red ear flaps, and it has a ball on the top, and it's really wild. It's all over Ravelry. If you look up Jane spelled with a Y, Jayne, it's out there. So I'm going to try to pick up some wool for that when I make it to the Yarn Barn to grab the Mirasol Hap'i. One more thing about stash busting. I have a problem. I have a problem buying clearance yarn just because it's on clearance. And I have these two balls of sock yarn. Problem number 1 is that I don't knit socks. Problem number 2 is that I didn't buy enough of either color to knit a pair of socks, even if I did knit socks. Each of these balls is 50 grams. It has 166 yards. Sock weight yarn, superwash, 75% washable wool, 25% nylon. Got no clue what to do with it. If you've got a pattern, particularly a free pattern off of Ravelry, I'd love to know. A shawl would be lovely, but really 166 yards? Don't know how I'm going to make that work. But I've literally been carrying those balls of yarn with me for years, waiting to be inspired. So I need some help there. Last but not least, books. Let's talk about our books. Where did I put them? 2 books right here in my hand. Oh, for starters, I do a lot of audiobooks. I started listening to The Book Thief and did not get past the first chapter. I don't know. I just wasn't in the right mood. It didn't strike me. Tried to listen to Wendell Berry's A World Lost, and something was weird with my phone or the app or the book, and it insisted that I start in the 4th chapter. So that was very frustrating. And so right now I don't have a book on audio, but I need to get a book on audio because that's how most of my reading happens. I'm reading The Bean Trees, but only because everyone says that it's good. I've got this much of it left. So I'm going to finish because I need to finish at this point, but it's just kind of leaving me hanging. It's not exciting. I don't get excited about reading it. And at this point, it seems really predictable to me, so I'm struggling with that. I hope that it's going to prove me wrong in the 93 pages that I have left. The book that I really want to be reading is Clementine in the Kitchen. I got this from my local library's book sale for 50 cents, and I couldn't have been more tickled. It says on the bottom, a minor masterpiece. I wish the book could stay with us forever. It is a story, a memoir, sort of, a biography, sort of. It is the story of Clementine, a classically trained French chef who was brought on by an American family in the months prior to the Nazi invasion of France. The family fled back to the United States, and with them they brought Clementine. So it is the story of Clementine living in the U.S. but bringing all of her Frenchy goodness with her. The book has 170 French recipes in it, which I'm tickled about. Just flipping through here, it's carrots, it's ham, it's a whole lot of cheese, it's lobster, it's veal, no veal. Delightful things that I can't wait to get into. And I love that it's coming right at this time of year because I love French food and that kind of rich, stewy cooking in the winter. So the only other thing I have to say about books is my sweet, sweet friend got me this bookmark, and it has made reading this book that I'm kind of meh about such a delight. How can a bookmark be so revolutionary? I don't know. I just think it goes to show that the aesthetics of life cannot be underestimated because it's lovely and it makes me happy. On the back of it, it says, it has a Helen Keller quote. It says, "Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much." And it was made by a gal who has an Etsy shop. It's called Little Things Studio, and you can look her up at littlethingsstudio.com. So go and buy bookmarks to put in people's stockings for Christmas, or if you give them a book, give them a bookmark with it. It is delightful. All right, so I think that's it for me today. I'm looking forward to being back next week to talk about more of this stuff. I've got a boatload of stuff to talk about, but I don't want to keep it any longer than 20 minutes. and I think I'm already there. Have a great week, and leave your thoughts in the comments below and let me know what you're knitting and reading. Talk to you soon. Bye.